I'm here. I'm here. Don't worry. Just slightly late because I got distracted. Well, maybe that's not entirely true. I'll tell you in a minute. 3, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. My name's Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. We even got a different angle going. I'm not sure why. Just we're gonna run with it. Oh, that is too hot. Okay, so we're gonna bring that down a notch. Bought an electric tea kettle to make the hot water because I theorized that it would be a little faster, and I can change the temperature for coffee and tea, depending on what I'm making. And I should be able to sell my Keurig, my K-cup machine, for about the same price that I paid for this thing. So we'll do that. And I just boiled water, and that's way too hot to start coffee. And apparently now I'm dying. Bam. Well, how was your Tuesday? I had a pretty good Tuesday. Got a bunch of work done. I felt really good about it. What did I have for dinner last night? I don't even remember. Oh, I had veggie burgers. It's kind of my check as I run through the day. What did I do for work? What did I have for dinner? Because that usually reminds me of what happened. It's cold in the house. It's 61 because we're at that odd time of year where it can be really warm during the day and still, 48 at night. And I left the patio door and a couple windows open a bit. And I'm not running the heat. No more heat. No more heat. I mean, if it got really cold, I would. It's not like I can't, but I try not to. As much as no, let me say that differently. I loved my birthday. I had a great day on Monday. I'm glad I took the day off. I feel challenged, though, by all the things that normally get done on a Monday that had to get done on a different day. I do have a bit of open time tomorrow, so I should be fine. I should be able to catch up. We'll see. Let's see if this is cooled off enough. The next step after this might be the first cup travel mug. So I could set the temperature on the kettle lower, but then if I put it in something even more insulated, it lasts longer, right? So you maintain good drinkable temperature. I don't know like how that's feeling in my throat. I might feel like I might be coming down with something. We'll have to be careful. I feel a tickle in my throat. It could also be that I just beat the tar out of my body on Monday and did not eat enough or even good food, healthy food to recover. So, we'll see. We'll see how today goes. What's going on your end? Now for today, what's today? Today's Wednesday. I had a meeting cancel. Today is my first day back in the gym coaching CrossFit, which means maybe the martial arts schools that I am involved in will open up soon. Knock on wood. Let's see what's going on there. I'm excited for that. It's a lot more work. There's a lot of prep and cleaning and things, and I have to coach wearing a mask, which is not going to be pleasant. I will probably wear a different mask than I typically wear. I don't have a bandana. It's hard to talk through those things. We'll see. We'll see what goes on. We'll figure it out. What else? Oh, I got a blog post to write for Patreon. I got to figure out what I'm doing for the Patreon video and audio this month. Try to record a Thursday episode. A lot going on. There's always a lot going on. A couple weeks ago, I wrote an email to the entire team, everybody who works on anything, and said, hey, I am no longer able to keep track of all the different little things that are going on. And since most of what we do, you could look at as marketing, I said, if you have something going on with one of the things that you do, make sure you remind me of it so I can remind everybody else. And it's already led to some pretty good stuff. It's a big team. I think there were 10 people on that email. There's a lot going on here. And more every day. I don't like what the boiling water did to the coffee. It was too hot. It was far too hot. And kind of killed the grounds. The flavor's gone. Which I wouldn't have expected. Because percolated coffee tastes good. Maybe I'll have to experiment with this more. Maybe I didn't use enough grounds. There's a little bit more water than normal. Well, let's see what you all wrote in for me to respond to. And remember, if you want to write me something, if you want to give me a quote or a question or a fact, a something, let me know. Boom. Here we go. And by let me know, I mean drop it below, and I'll answer it tomorrow. I am still waking up. I went to bed early, and I'm still a little fried. All right. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine. Bruce Lee. That's a great quote. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations. You're not in this world to live up to mine. Reminds me of something I've been saying a lot lately. Everybody's the hero in their own story. I think all too often we forget that people have their own story. Yeah, we're doing our thing. And we have our own standards that we hold ourselves to. But how exhausting would it be if every one of us tried to hold ourselves to everybody else's standards, especially when they differ? It's impossible. You can't please all the people all the time. Some people you can't please ever. And one of the things that I've done as I've gotten older is to reduce the number of people I care about pleasing. Because that's how you remain the authentic version of you. And the people who really belong in your life will appreciate that version of you. I'm me. Take it or leave it. There are plenty of people out there who don't like me. I don't care anymore. I used to care a lot. I care a little. But when you're in the public eye, you got to figure that out. There are videos we put up that get so many thumbs down here on YouTube for no reason I can figure out. It used to bother me. Now I just don't care. Let's make another video. And you know what helped with that? Some of the coolest things I've ever seen on video are on YouTube. And some of those have hundreds or thousands of thumbs down. Why? You know what I think it is? People feel better about themselves by saying, oh, this thing sucks and here's why. It's the same attitude that stems from bullying. Right? It's digital bullying. It's, I'm going to make myself feel better by pointing out your flaws. All right, whatever. If that's really where you're at in life and what you need to do, go ahead and do it. Doesn't bother me. Not entirely true. It bothers me a little bit. But it doesn't change anything. One must try every day to expand one's limits. Mas Oyama, founder of Kyokushin. One must try every day to expand one's limits. And if you know anything about Kyokushin karate, that's pretty apt for him. I mean, he was a rugged dude. Very rugged dude. Fought bulls, which for a long time people said didn't happen, and then there's video of it. He fought bulls. It's kind of nuts. And what I think is really interesting, he's Korean. He's Korean. He founded a Japanese karate style. And, yeah, at a time when that was a really big deal. What are limits? I think there are two kinds of limits. There are limits that I think we accept scientifically. Flying. Picking up a house. Teleporting. Things that our body just is not able to do. And you know what? There are people who would probably argue the last one. Forget that for a minute. And then there are much, much softer limits. Running a mile in 2 seconds faster than you ever have. Picking up a little bit more weight. Doing your form just a little bit better. When we start to look at those limits, they don't really exist. In a lot of martial arts schools, that's the purpose of a black belt test, is to show you, okay, this is where you thought your line was. We're going to push you past it. And then we're going to push you past that. And then we're going to push you past that. Because if we do that enough times, you start to realize, wait a second, these limits are arbitrary. They're in my head. I am capable of so much more. There's always a little bit more. There's always a little more toothpaste in the tube. You always have 5 more minutes that you could dedicate to something. You could always try 1% harder. But that takes a toll. Emotionally, that takes a toll. So you have to use that appropriately. Are there times when I stay up till 10 or 11 or 2 in the morning doing work? Yes. Do I do them often? No. Because it takes a toll. It takes a toll on my health, my spirit. I'll make that push when it's necessary. But it's not a sustainable way to live. I used to think it was. In my 20s, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I gotta get this work done sort of thing. Yeah. Definitely too hot. Definitely a little bit too much water. So you'll get to go on this ride with me as I figure out how to make pour-over coffee. Basically coffee tea out of an electric kettle and a tea strainer. I'll keep you updated. This is probably the weirdest show on YouTube, and I'm okay with that. You know what the coolest thing on YouTube is? I'll tell you. It has nothing to do with martial arts, but I am absolutely fascinated by these. You've probably seen one. The first one I saw was on Facebook over a year ago. It's a guy, based on his stature and the climate, it looks like he's in Southeast Asia. Maybe the Philippines, maybe Indonesia. And he goes into the woods with nothing. Sometimes he has a knife. And he builds a house. Or an underground house. There are different ones now with different people. Or a pool with a water slide. And you see him making fire and making, forming clay and chopping trees and getting water. Really cool. I keep turning the volume down on this and it keeps ignoring me and I don't like it. What is happening with you? There we go. It was that one. For me, the martial arts is a search for something inside. It's not just a physical discipline. Brandon Lee. I think it is so horribly tragic that Brandon Lee died. And when I learned that, you know, it's like, oh, that's weird and obviously sad. But as I've gotten older, and I've learned more about that family, as I've had the opportunity to speak with Shannon Lee, I feel sorrow for her and her mother. But I don't, how do I say this? I don't know that it could have gone any other way. When you look at the impact of Bruce Lee, nearly 50 years later, nearly 50 years after his death, we still talk about him on nearly every episode of Martial Arts Radio. We talk about him often here on First Cup. He is still the symbol of traditional martial arts to the wider world. How do you carry that torch? You can't. Bruce Lee's been built up into something more than he ever was. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't mean that the adoration that many have for him is misplaced. I mean that when someone dies, we tend to think highly and even higher of the good stuff. He did a lot of good stuff. But those become really big shoes, and how do you step into them? I would never want to step into those shoes. And it must have been difficult for Brandon. And I'm sure it's difficult for Shannon. But rather than trying to fill those shoes, she's just trying to she's making sure everyone knows who he was. And I'm sure in part that's her way of discovering him, because she was really young when he passed. 3? I think she said she was 3, 4. So she barely remembers him. If he had lived through the filming of The Crow, he likely would have gone on to make more movies. And more and more and more movies. And he would have been compared to Bruce Lee. And that's an unfair comparison. Not happy he died. I am, as I try to think of what it would be like to be him following in those footsteps, there is a sense of relief that he did not have to experience any more than he did already of following in those footsteps. It's a consolation prize. It's definitely not first place. I'm sure he and the rest of his family and anyone who knew him would rather have him following in the footsteps and be alive. just funny how it worked out that way. Her last quote of the day. A man who has attained mastery of an art reveals it in his every action. Gogen Yamaguchi. I do not know that name. I'm going to guess it's an Okinawan master. Just based on the philosophy and the name. Reveals it in his every action. I think so. A well-trained martial artist, someone who, let's say, has been training for 20 or 30 years. You see it in how they walk. You see it in how they engage with other people, how they talk. It impacts their philosophy, their choices. You can probably take a look at again 20, 30, 40 years, and I'm not going to follow this thread, but I'll hand it to you if you want to. You can probably see a correlation or some a commonality in political views that goes beyond, statistics. It becomes a pretty substantial anomaly based on my observation. And I think that's because of the lessons in martial arts and what it and the way it impacts the way people think. If martial arts is personal growth, and I believe it is, as you grow, you start to incorporate the lessons you learn in your daily life. The lesson that I am working on in life right now that probably came from martial arts is, what does an elegant life look like? Not a lavish life, an elegant life. What is elegant? Elegant is something that is beautiful in its simplicity. If you've ever seen someone do a very simple form and done it amazingly, that's elegant. The combinations that Bill Wallace does and teaches, those are elegant. They're simple, they're effective, they're not easy. So as I look around my home, how do I build a more elegant lifestyle? I take a Keurig K-Cup machine and I replace that with an electric tea kettle because it's more versatile. It looks nicer on the counter. Smaller. That's an elegant lifestyle. Beauty in its simplicity. I think we overcomplicate things sometimes. Most of the time. Life doesn't have to be complex. We make it complex. If any of you out there grew up science nerds, as I did, Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a principle. Anyway, Occam's razor says that the simplest solution to a problem, simplest explanation of a situation is usually the right one. That's what I fall back on most of the time. If you've got half a dozen ways of explaining something, the simplest one is probably the right one. Well, I'm off to finish this burned coffee. That's probably what happened. And I'm going to see you tomorrow. So, leave me a question, leave me a comment, something below that I can respond to. And I'll be back tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. Eastern, here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so you can join us. And if you want to support the work that we do at Whistlekick, go to whistlekick.com, check out everything we're doing, subscribe to the newsletter, use the code FIRSTCUP15 if you buy something, or you can support the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. And if you contribute, you get access to more stuff, more content that you won't find anywhere else. Thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.